Subscribe to Cheating Tales Lab. Now let's begin. The afternoon sun cut through the windshield like an accusation. William Edwards gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles white, as his 5-year-old son Owen sobbed in the back seat. Each cry felt like a knife twisting in his chest, but Marcia sat beside him, stone-faced and irritated. "Daddy, please don't leave me there," Owen whimpered, his voice cracking with genuine terror. "Please, I'll be good. I promise I'll be so good." William's jaw clenched. He glanced at Marcia, hoping to see some maternal softness, some concern for their child's distress. Instead, her lips curled in disgust. "Stop babying him, William," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "He needs to toughen up. My mother will straighten him out for the weekend. God knows you're too soft to do it." William had met Marcia 7 years ago at a community college where he taught psychology. She'd been auditing his course on childhood development. Ironic, considering how she treated their own child. Back then, she'd seemed different, confident, independent, magnetic. He'd mistaken her coldness for strength, her dismissiveness for pragmatism. By the time he'd realized his mistake, they were married, and Owen was on the way. He taught during the week and spent his weekends researching trauma responses in children. His colleagues called him obsessive, but William believed in understanding the mind's darkest corners. He'd grown up in foster care, bouncing between homes where kindness was currency and cruelty was common. He'd promised himself that any child of his would know safety, would know love. But Marcia had other ideas. "He's crying because you encourage it," she continued, examining her nails. "One weekend with my mother, and he'll learn discipline." Sue Melton, William's mother-in-law. The woman was a retired military nurse with a face like granite and a demeanor to match. She'd raised Marcia with an iron fist and expected the same treatment for Owen. William had resisted these weekend visits for months, but Marcia had worn him down with constant arguments, threats of taking Owen and leaving, accusations of being a controlling husband. "Daddy!" Owen's scream pierced through his thoughts. The boy had unbuckled his seatbelt and was trying to climb into the front seat, his small hands grasping desperately at William's shoulder. "Don't make me go. Grandma scares me." "Owen, sit back," William started, but Marcia whipped around, her hand shooting out to grab Owen's wrist. The boy yelped in pain. "Marcia!" William swerved slightly, steadying the car. "Sit down. Now." Marcia's voice was venomous. She released Owen's wrist, leaving red marks. The boy collapsed back into his seat, sobbing quietly now, defeated. Something in his eyes had changed, a resignation that no 5-year-old should possess. William's stomach churned. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. But he'd been backing down for so long, avoiding confrontation, telling himself it was just a weekend, that he was overthinking, that maybe Marcia was right and he was too protective. They pulled up to Sue Melton's house 40 minutes later. It was a tired colonial in a quiet suburb of Hartford, Connecticut, with peeling paint and a lawn maintained with military precision. Sue stood on the porch, arms crossed, her gray hair pulled back so tight it seemed to stretch her face. She was 68 but carried herself like a drill sergeant. Owen had gone silent, his face pressed against the window, tears streaming down his cheeks. William killed the engine, his hands shaking. "I'll get him," Marcia said, climbing out before William could respond. He watched through the mirror as Marcia opened the back door and practically dragged Owen from the car. The boy's legs buckled, but she pulled him upright, hissing something William couldn't hear. Sue descended the porch steps, her mouth a thin line of disapproval. William got out, his legs feeling like lead. "William," Sue acknowledged him with a curt nod. "You're late." "Traffic," he said automatically, moving toward Owen. The boy reached for him, but Marcia stepped between them. "Owen needs to learn independence," Marcia said firmly. "Tell Daddy goodbye." Owen's lower lip trembled. "Bye, Daddy." William crouched down, ignoring Marcia's annoyed sigh. He pulled Owen into a tight hug, feeling the boy's small body shaking. "I love you, buddy. I'll pick you up Sunday evening, okay? Just 2 days. Promise." Owen whispered against his neck. "I promise." But as William pulled away, he saw something flicker across Owen's face. Not hope, but fear. Deep, primal fear. The boy's pupils were dilated, his breathing rapid. William had seen that expression before, in his research, in case studies of traumatized children. "William, he's fine," Sue said, her voice clipped. "Go home." Marcia and I have plans to discuss while Owen settles in. Something about that phrasing bothered him, but Marcia was already ushering him back toward the car. I'll stay for a bit. Make sure he's okay, she said. You head home. I'll get a ride back later. William hesitated, every instinct screaming at him to grab Owen and run. But he was tired of fighting Marcia, tired of being called paranoid and overprotective, tired of the constant tension in his marriage. All right, he said, hating himself for the word. He drove away, watching in the rearview mirror as Sue led Owen into the house, the boy looking back at him one last time before the door closed. The drive home took 40 minutes, but it felt like hours. William's mind wouldn't settle. He kept seeing Owen's face, kept hearing that desperate plea, "Don't leave me there." He'd analyzed thousands of behavioral cues in his career, had written papers on recognizing distress in children, and he'd just ignored every sign in his own son. At home, their small house in West Hartford felt suffocatingly empty. William tried to grade papers, but the words blurred. He made coffee, poured it out untouched. By 6 p.m., he'd checked his phone 17 times, waiting for Marcia to call for a ride. She texted at 6:47, staying for dinner. Mom wants to talk. I'll Uber home. William stared at the message, his unease growing. He texted back, "How's Owen?" The response took 10 minutes. "Fine. Stop hovering." He tried to watch TV, to distract himself, but every child's voice in every commercial made him think of Owen. At 8:30 p.m., his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. Is this William Edwards?" A woman's voice, breathless and frightened. "Yes, who?" "This is Genevieve Fuller. I live next door to Sue Melton. Your son." She paused, her voice breaking. "Your son just ran to my house. Mr. Edwards, he's covered in blood." The world tilted. "What?" "He came through the backyard, squeezed through a gap in the fence. He's hiding under my bed right now. He won't stop shaking." "I can't, Mr. Edwards. I called 911, but I thought you should know immediately. There's so much blood." William was already moving, grabbing his keys, his phone pressed to his ear. "Is he conscious? Is he talking?" "He won't let me touch him. He just keeps saying, 'Don't let them find me.'" "Mr. Edwards, what happened to your little boy?" "I'm 20 minutes away. Keep him safe. Don't let anyone," his voice cracked, "don't let anyone take him. I'm coming." He drove like a madman, running 2 red lights, his vision blurring with tears and rage. His mind raced through possibilities, each more horrifying than the last. Blood. Owen was covered in blood. What had they done to him? Genevieve Fuller's house was lit up like Christmas, police cars in the driveway, an ambulance pulling up as William screeched to a stop. He ran toward the door, but an officer stopped him. "Sir, you can't. That's my son. My son is in there." The officer's expression softened. "Mr. Edwards? Come with me." Inside, the scene was controlled chaos. Paramedics were gathered near a bedroom door, speaking in low, urgent tones. Genevieve Fuller, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and flour on her apron, stood wringing her hands. "He won't come out," she told William, her face ashen. "I tried talking to him, but he's terrified. He asked for you." William pushed past everyone, dropping to his knees at the bedroom door. Through the crack, he could see Owen's small form wedged under the bed, his Spider-Man shirt soaked with blood. "Owen," William's voice broke. "Buddy, it's Dad. I'm here. I promised I'd come back, remember?" A sob from under the bed. "Owen, I need you to come out so we can help you. You're safe now. I promise you're safe." "They'll be mad," Owen whimpered. "They said I can never tell." William's blood ran cold. "No one's going to be mad at you. Whatever happened, it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong." "But Mommy said." "I don't care what Mommy said. You come to me, right now, and I will protect you. Do you believe me?" A pause. Then, slowly, Owen crawled out from under the bed. William nearly vomited. The blood covered Owen's face, his arms, his chest. But as the paramedics moved in, William realized with a shock that Owen didn't appear injured. "The blood isn't his," one paramedic said quietly, examining Owen. "No visible wounds." "Sir, whose blood is this?" Owen looked at William with eyes too old for his face. "I fought back, Daddy. Like you taught me. When someone hurts you, you fight back." The police officer stepped forward. "Son, who hurt you? Who did you fight?" But Owen had gone silent, burying his face in William's chest, his small body trembling violently. Genevieve Fuller approached the officer, her phone in hand. "I have security cameras," she said quietly. They cover my backyard. I saw what sent him running over here. The officer took her phone, watched for 30 seconds, and his face went white. Mr. Edwards, I need you to see this. William didn't want to let Owen go, but a female paramedic gently took the boy, wrapping him in a blanket and beginning a soft examination. William stood on shaking legs and took the phone. The security footage showed Genevieve's backyard, the fence line, and through the gaps in the fence, part of Sue Melton's backyard. The timestamp read 8:17 p.m., just over an hour ago. The video showed Sue dragging something toward a shed in her backyard. No, not something. Owen. The boy was limp, being pulled by his arm. Sue opened the shed door, threw him inside, and locked it with a padlock. She stood there for a moment, arms crossed, then walked back toward the house. 5 minutes passed. Then the shed door began to shake. Owen was awake, trying to get out. The banging intensified. Then, silence. 8 minutes later, the shed door exploded outward. Owen burst out, but he wasn't alone. Sue Melton came running from the house, and the camera caught the moment she grabbed Owen's shirt, spinning him around. What happened next made William's knees buckle. The officer caught him as the phone clattered to the floor. Sue had raised her hand to strike Owen, but the boy moved faster than a 5-year-old should. He grabbed something from the ground, a garden spade, and swung it with desperate, survival-driven strength. The blade caught Sue across the face, and she went down. Hard. Owen dropped the spade and ran, squeezing through the fence into Genevieve's yard, his grandmother's blood covering him. Where is she? William managed to ask. Where's Sue? The officer's radio crackled. Another officer's voice came through. We've got a medical emergency at 247 Maple. Female, late 60s, severe facial trauma. We need another bus. William looked at the officer. My wife. Where's my wife? Officers are at the Melton residence now, sir. William turned to Owen, who was being examined by paramedics. The boy's eyes met his, and William saw no remorse there. Only relief. A female detective arrived, introducing herself as Detective Alberta Stark. She pulled William aside while EMTs worked with Owen. Mr. Edwards, we need to understand what happened here. Your son attacked his grandmother with a weapon. In self-defense, William said immediately, his voice stronger than he felt. Did you see the footage? She locked him in a shed. We saw it. We'll investigate fully. But I need you to understand. This is serious. Your son injured someone badly, and he's covered in blood. We need to know what led to this. I want to see my wife, William said. Now. Sue Melton's house was crawling with police when they arrived. Marcia stood on the porch, her face a mask of fury and shock. When she saw William, she rushed toward him. What did you do? She screamed. What did you tell him to do? William stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time. Not shock at her son's trauma. Not concern for his well-being. Anger. At being caught. What was in that shed, Marcia? She faltered. I don't know what was in that shed. Detective Stark stepped between them. Mrs. Edwards, we're going to need you to come with us. We have some questions. I'm not going anywhere until I see my mother. Your mother is being transported to Hartford Hospital with severe facial lacerations and a possible skull fracture, Stark said evenly. And you're going to answer questions about why your 5-year-old son was locked in a shed. William watched as Marcia's mask cracked. Just for a second, he saw something underneath. Not concern, not motherly love, but calculation. She was trying to figure out how to spin this, how to make herself the victim. I want a lawyer, Marcia said. Detective Stark nodded to another officer, who guided Marcia to a police car. As she passed William, she leaned in and whispered, You'll regret this. You have no idea what you've done. But William did know. He'd just seen his son's terror validated. He'd seen the evidence of abuse. And he'd seen his wife's true face. He also knew something else. This was just the beginning. Back at the hospital, Owen was admitted for observation. William sat beside his bed, holding the boy's hand as doctors ran tests. Owen had been sedated lightly to calm his panic, but his grip on William's hand never loosened. A child psychologist came in around midnight, Dr. Isaac Dickey, someone William knew from professional conferences. Dickey's face was grim. William, I need to talk to you. Owen's physical exam revealed some concerning things. William's heart stopped. What things? Old bruises in various stages of healing. Some scarring on his back consistent with being struck with a belt or similar object. and behavioral markers that suggest prolonged psychological abuse. The room spun. How long? Based on the healing patterns? Months at least. Possibly longer. William thought back to all the times Marcia had insisted on disciplining Owen privately. All the times she'd accused William of coddling him. All the weekends she'd wanted to send Owen to Sue's house while he was at teaching conferences. I need to see that shed, William said suddenly. That's a crime scene, Dickie said gently. The police won't. I don't care. I need to know what they did to my son. Detective Stark appeared in the doorway. Mr. Edwards, we've processed the shed. I think you should see this. She handed him her phone with photos. The shed was small, maybe 6 by 8 feet, but it had been modified. Padded walls. A metal ring bolted to the floor with a chain. A bucket in the corner. And on the walls, written in marker, rules for bad boys. No crying. No talking back. No telling daddy. Punishment makes you strong. Mommy knows best. William's vision blurred. How many times? He whispered. We found a calendar hidden in the main house, Stark said quietly. Marcia's handwriting. Dates marked OT, Owen time. Going back 8 months. Every weekend you were away at conferences or workshops. 8 months. His son had endured this for 8 months while William remained oblivious, trusting his wife, doubting his own instincts. I want full custody, William said. I want her arrested. We're building a case, Stark assured him. But Mr. Edwards, I have to tell you, Sue Melton is in surgery. If she doesn't make it, your son could face serious charges. William looked at Owen, sleeping fitfully in the hospital bed, his small face finally peaceful. He was defending himself. A 5-year-old caused that much damage. The DA might see it differently. Then I'll make them see it my way, William said, his voice hardening. I'm a psychologist who specializes in childhood trauma. I'll expert witness for my own son if I have to. And I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what these women did to him. Stark studied him carefully. Be careful, Mr. Edwards. Rage is understandable, but it can cloud judgment. But William wasn't feeling rage anymore. He was feeling something colder, more focused. He was feeling the kind of clarity that came from absolute purpose. His son had fought back when cornered in that shed. Now it was William's turn to fight back. And unlike Owen, who'd had only a garden spade and desperation, William had knowledge, resources, and a burning need for justice that went beyond the courts. He was going to destroy the people who'd hurt his child. Legally, socially, psychologically, he would dismantle their lives the way they'd tried to dismantle Owen's. But first, he needed to understand the full scope of what he was dealing with. And that meant talking to Sue Melton's neighbors, Marcia's old friends, and anyone else who might know what these two had been doing behind closed doors. As dawn broke over Hartford, William made a call to his department head, requesting an immediate leave of absence. Then he called his lawyer, not for a divorce, but for a custody battle and criminal consultation. The war had just begun, and William Edwards was playing for keeps. 2 days later, Owen was released from the hospital into William's sole custody. A judge had granted an emergency protective order against Marcia pending investigation. Sue Melton had survived surgery, but remained in critical condition with severe facial reconstruction needed. William converted his home office into a war room. On one wall, he'd pinned a timeline of every weekend Owen had been sent to Sue's house. On another, he'd started documenting every incident he could remember where Marcia had been cruel or dismissive toward their son, things he'd rationalized away at the time. His lawyer, Wendell Kane, was a sharp family law attorney with a reputation for winning impossible cases. He sat across from William, reviewing police reports. The good news is the DA isn't charging Owen. They've ruled it self-defense, Wendell said. The bad news is Marcia is fighting the protective order. She claims you're manipulating the situation, that Owen has behavioral problems you've been hiding. William's laugh was bitter. Of course she does. There's more. Sue Melton's lawyer is preparing a civil suit against you for medical expenses. They're claiming Owen is dangerous and you knew it. Let them try. I have 8 months of documented torture. Wendell leaned forward. William, I know you're angry. But if you want to win this, really win, you need to be smart. Marcia is already spinning a narrative. She's telling people you brainwashed Owen, that Sue was just a strict grandmother, that the shed was just a timeout space. Then I'll destroy that narrative. How? William pulled out a folder. I've been doing research. Sue Melton worked as a military nurse for 30 years. I filed a FOIA request for her service record. Want to know what I found? He slid documents across the desk. Wendell's eyes widened as he read. She was discharged early. There was an investigation into patient abuse at her facility. Nothing was proven, but 3 formal complaints were filed. This could be huge. And Marcia? William pulled out more documents. She's been active on parenting forums under a pseudonym. I hired a digital investigator. She's been posting about discipline techniques that border on sadistic. Here. Wendell read the printouts, his face darkening. Posts about ice-cold baths for misbehavior, locking children in dark spaces to overcome irrational fears, withholding meals as punishment. Jesus Christ. She and Sue weren't just abusing Owen, William said, his voice deadly calm. They were proud of it. They thought they were doing the right thing. Toughening him up. This is enough for criminal charges. Multiple charges. Good. But I want more than charges, Wendell. I want them destroyed. I want everyone to know what they are. Wendell studied him carefully. What are you planning? A symposium, William said. I'm still faculty at the college. I'm going to organize a public symposium on childhood trauma and institutional abuse. I'm going to present Owen's case, anonymized, of course, and I'm going to make sure every parent in Hartford understands what happened. That's risky. It could look like you're exploiting your son's trauma. I'm educating the public. It's my job. William's smile didn't reach his eyes. And if Marcia and Sue's names happen to leak in association with the case study, well, I can't control what people research on their own. Wendell sighed. You're walking a line. I'm doing what they should have done, protecting a child. Over the next week, William worked tirelessly. He interviewed Owen gently, with Dr. Dickey present, documenting everything the boy revealed. The shed had been just the final escalation. Before that, there had been slapping, verbal abuse, being forced to stand in corners for hours, meals withheld, being locked in closets. And Marcia had been there for all of it, either participating or watching approvingly as Sue corrected Owen's behavior. William compiled it all into a comprehensive report. He sent copies to Child Protective Services, to the police, to the DA's office. He made sure everyone knew the full extent of the abuse. Then he leaked it to the press. The story broke on a Wednesday. Local child saved from abusive discipline shed by his own desperate act. The article didn't name Owen, but it named Sue Melton and quoted police sources about the investigation into Marcia Edwards. The community erupted. Sue's neighbors came forward with stories of hearing crying from the shed, of seeing Marcia arrive with Owen and leave without him. Parents from Owen's preschool remembered how he'd become withdrawn and anxious over the past year. Marcia's facade crumbled under scrutiny. Her employer, a dental office where she worked as a receptionist, put her on administrative leave. Her friends distanced themselves. Sue's church congregation sent letters denouncing her. But William wasn't done. He organized the symposium for a Friday evening, 3 weeks after Owen's escape. Over 200 people attended: parents, teachers, social workers, law enforcement. William took the stage, his presentation meticulous and damning. He walked through the psychology of child abuse, the cycle of generational trauma, the warning signs parents should watch for. Then he presented Case Study X, Owen's story, in clinical detail. The audience was riveted and horrified. When he showed the photos of the shed, Owen's face blurred. Several people left the room crying. When he presented Sue's service record and Marcia's forum posts, the gasps were audible. This happened in our community, Williams said, his voice carrying across the silent room. This happened to a child whose father is a psychologist specializing in trauma. I missed the signs because I trusted my wife. I ignored my instincts because I was told I was overprotective. Never again. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Local news cameras captured everything. By midnight, the story was statewide. By morning, it was national. Father's heartbreaking presentation exposes abuse culture in American parenting. William watched the coverage from his living room. Owen asleep upstairs, finally safe. His phone rang constantly. Interview requests, support messages, angry voicemails from Marcia's family. He ignored them all except one call from Detective Stark. We're adding charges, she said. Multiple counts of child abuse, false imprisonment, conspiracy. The DA is going for maximum sentencing. Good. Mr. Edwards, Sue Melton was released from the hospital yesterday. She's been calling the station, demanding we arrest Owen. Her lawyer is aggressive. Let him be aggressive. We have the truth. There's something else. We found additional evidence at Sue's house. A locked cabinet in her basement. Photos. William's blood ran cold. Photos of what? Other children. We're not sure yet if they're victims, or we're investigating. But William, this might be bigger than we thought. After the symposium, William received an unexpected visitor. Angelo Craig, an investigative journalist from the Hartford Courant, wanted to do a deeper piece on the case. I've been looking into Sue Melton's background, Angelo said, sitting in William's kitchen. Your FOIA request opened some doors. I found something you should see. He laid out documents. Sue was married 3 times. Her first husband died in a car accident. But here's the thing. Their daughter, Marcia's half-sister, committed suicide at 16. The death was ruled self-inflicted, but the suicide note mentioned escaping the discipline. William stared at the document. Marcia has a dead half-sister? Had. And Sue's second husband divorced her after 2 years, citing cruelty. He got custody of their son, and that son hasn't spoken to Sue in 30 years. Why didn't this come up before? Sue moved around a lot. Different states, different names through marriages. I only connected the dots because I'm persistent. Angelo pulled out more papers. And Marcia? She was in foster care briefly as a teenager. Sue voluntarily gave her up for 6 months, citing inability to control her. Then took her back. William felt sick. So this is generational. Sue abused her own children, and Marcia learned from her. And they teamed up to do it to Owen. Angelo leaned forward. William, I want to write this story. The full story. How cycles of abuse perpetuate. How your son broke free. How you're fighting back. But I need your permission. William thought about Owen, upstairs drawing pictures of superheroes. His way of processing trauma. If it helps other families see the signs, do it. The article ran the following Sunday, front page, with a continuation spanning 3 more pages inside. Angelo had interviewed everyone. Neighbors, teachers, Sue's ex-husband, even the foster family who'd taken in Marcia briefly. The picture that emerged was of 2 women who genuinely believed love required violence, who saw cruelty as pedagogy, who had traumatized children for decades without consequences. Until Owen fought back. The public response was overwhelming. An online fundraiser for Owen's therapy topped $50,000 in 3 days. Parents across Connecticut demanded stricter oversight of home discipline. Legislators called for hearings. Sue Melton's house was vandalized twice. Marcia's car was egged. They'd become pariahs, exactly as William had intended. But he still wasn't satisfied. Because he knew something the public didn't. Those photos the police had found in Sue's basement. Detective Stark called him in for a private meeting. She looked exhausted. We've identified 12 children in those photos, she said. All of them were in Sue's care at various points. Some were Marcia's children from previous relationships. Yes, she had kids before Owen that she gave up for adoption. Others were neighbor kids, church kids, children of friends. Were they abused? We're interviewing them now. Most are adults now, some are still minors. The preliminary reports are disturbing. Sue ran an informal daycare in several cities she lived in. The abuse was systematic. William sat back, processing. How did she get away with it for so long? She was smart. She moved frequently. She chose vulnerable families, single parents, struggling families who needed cheap childcare. And she never left marks that would raise red flags. It was psychological torture mostly, with occasional physical punishment disguised as discipline. And Marcia helped her. In the later years, yes. We have evidence Marcia recruited some of the victims, told their parents Sue was a strict but effective caregiver. William's hands clenched into fists. I want to testify at trial. I want to make sure they both go to prison for the rest of their lives. You'll get your chance. The trial date is set for September. But William, Stark hesitated. Marcia's lawyer is going to come after you. They're going to claim you're an unfit father who drove Owen to violence, that you used your psychology background to manipulate him. Let them try. The custody hearing came first, in August. William sat at the plaintiff's table with Wendell, while Marcia sat across the courtroom with her attorney, a slick lawyer named Vince Sutton, who specialized in defending the indefensible. Owen was not required to attend, thank God. He was with Dr. Dickey in a safe room, drawing and playing, unaware his future was being decided. Sutton opened with character assassination. Your Honor, Dr. Edwards is a man obsessed with trauma to the point of paranoia. He sees abuse everywhere because of his own troubled childhood in foster care. He has projected his issues onto his son, creating a false narrative of abuse where strict discipline existed. William remained calm, as Wendell had coached him. The judge, a woman named Kelsey Higgins with 20 years on the bench, looked unimpressed. "Counsel, I've read the police reports. I've seen the photos of the shed. How do you explain that? A timeout space that Dr. Edwards has mischaracterized." Yes, it was unorthodox, but Mrs. Edwards and Mrs. Melton never intended harm. They were attempting to correct behavioral issues in a child who, frankly, had been coddled to the point of dysfunction by his father. William's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Wendell stood. "Your Honor, may I present Exhibit A?" He displayed blown-up photos of Owen's bruises, the shed's interior, the calendar marking Owen time. Then he played Dr. Dickey's recorded interview with Owen, where the boy described being locked in the dark, being hit, being told he was bad and needed to be punished. The courtroom went silent except for Owen's small voice on the recording. "Mommy said if I told Daddy, she'd send me away forever. She said Daddy would hate me for being bad." Judge Higgins' expression hardened. "Mr. Sutton, I've heard enough. Do you have any witnesses who can refute this evidence?" Sutton called Marcia to the stand. She'd cleaned up well, conservative dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back. She played the role of wounded mother perfectly. "I love my son," she said, her voice quavering. "I only wanted what was best for him. My mother and I believed in structure, in discipline, yes, but never abuse. Owen was a difficult child, prone to tantrums and lying. William encouraged these behaviors by giving in to every whim." "Mrs. Edwards," Judge Higgins said, "do you deny locking your son in a shed?" "It was a timeout space. He was never locked in for more than a few minutes. The police found a calendar marking full weekends." Marcia's mask slipped briefly. "Those were weekends he stayed with my mother, yes. The shed was only used occasionally, when he was particularly unruly." Wendell stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Edwards, you posted on parenting forums under the username Tough Love 2019, correct?" "I don't. You posted advice about using cold baths and isolation to discipline children. You wrote, and I quote, 'Sometimes you have to break their spirit to rebuild them properly.' Do you stand by that statement?" Marcia paled. "That was taken out of context." "What context makes breaking a child's spirit acceptable?" "I meant, I was frustrated. You were systematically abusing your son, along with your mother, who has a documented history of patient abuse and child trauma going back 30 years. "Objection," Sutton shouted. "Relevance." "Overruled," Judge Higgins said coldly. "I'll allow it." "Mrs. Edwards, answer the question." But Marcia had started crying, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "You don't understand. I was raised this way. It made me strong. I thought I was helping Owen become strong too. By terrorizing him." Wendell's voice was scalpel sharp. "By locking him in a shed? By hitting him? By threatening him into silence? I never wanted." Marcia broke down completely, sobbing. Judge Higgins called a recess, but the damage was done. When they reconvened an hour later, the judge's ruling was swift and absolute. "I am granting Dr. Edwards full physical and legal custody. Mrs. Edwards, you will have no contact with the minor child pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. I am also recommending the DA pursue charges to the fullest extent." This court is adjourned. William closed his eyes, relief washing over him. Owen was his. Completely, legally, irrevocably his. As they left the courtroom, Marcia tried to approach him. William held up a hand. "Don't," he said simply. "William, please. He's my son too." "No," William said, his voice like iron. "You lost that right when you hurt him. You lost it when you chose your mother's cruelty over your child's well-being. You lost it when you made him believe he deserved to be punished for existing. I can change. I can get help. I don't care. You're going to prison, Marcia. And when you get out, Owen will be grown, and he'll know exactly what you are. That's your future. Live with it." He walked away, leaving her crying in the courthouse hallway. The criminal trial began in September, a media circus that drew national attention. William sat in the front row every day, a silent reminder to the jury of what this case was really about. Sue Melton, still bearing scars from Owen's desperate attack, played the frail grandmother. Marcia played the misguided mother. Their lawyers painted them as products of their time, women who believed in old-fashioned discipline, not criminals. But the prosecution was relentless. They brought in expert witnesses on child psychology, showing how the abuse had damaged Owen. They brought in the other victims, 7 adults willing to testify about their experiences in Sue's care. They showed the photos, the videos, the evidence of systematic, calculated cruelty. William was called as an expert witness. He walked to the stand with his head high, made eye contact with Marcia, and watched her look away. The prosecutor led him through his credentials, his research, his expertise. Then came the personal questions. Dr. Edwards, can you describe your son's condition when you arrived at the neighbor's house? William did, clinically at first, then with controlled emotion. He was covered in his grandmother's blood, shaking uncontrollably, displaying classic symptoms of acute trauma response. As a psychologist, I recognized immediately that he'd experienced a life-threatening event. And what did you learn about the abuse he'd suffered? Over time, through gentle therapeutic intervention, Owen revealed 8 months of systematic physical and psychological torture. He'd been conditioned to believe he deserved punishment, that his normal childhood behaviors were evidence of being bad. He'd been threatened, isolated, struck, and terrorized into silence. By his mother and grandmother? Yes. The defense tried to discredit him on cross-examination, suggesting bias. But William had anticipated every angle. He remained calm, factual, unshakable. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sue Melton was sentenced to 25 years. At 73, it was effectively a life sentence. Marcia received 15 years, eligible for parole in 10. William felt no satisfaction as the sentences were read, only a grim sense of justice served. They would hurt no more children. That was enough. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed him. William gave one statement. Today, the system protected a child that had failed. I hope Owen's story reminds every parent to trust their instincts, to believe their children, and to never accept cruelty disguised as discipline. The coverage was massive. Father's fight ends with justice for abused son. William became a reluctant celebrity, turning down talk show invitations, book deals, speaking tours. He wanted only one thing, to help Owen heal. 6 months after the trial, William sat in his living room watching Owen play with toy cars. The boy was 7 now, taller, stronger, but still bearing invisible scars. Therapy was helping. Dr. Dickey came twice a week, and Owen was slowly learning that not all adults would hurt him. Daddy, Owen looked up. Can I ask you something? Always, buddy. Why did Mommy and Grandma hurt me? William had known this question would come eventually. He set aside his book and gestured for Owen to join him on the couch. Some people are broken inside, William said carefully. They hurt so much that they think hurting others will make them feel better. Your grandmother hurt your mother when she was little, and your mother learned to hurt you. It's not right, and it's not your fault. But I hurt Grandma. With the shovel. You protected yourself. That's different. You were in danger, and you fought back. That was brave. Owen leaned against him. I'm glad you came to get me. I'll always come get you, Owen. Always. They sat in comfortable silence, and William felt something shift in his chest. For 8 months, he'd been driven by rage and the need for justice. But now, with Marcia and Sue behind bars, with Owen safe and healing, that rage was transforming into something else. Purpose. William returned to teaching that fall, but with a new mission. He developed a training program for teachers, pediatricians, and social workers on recognizing childhood abuse. He lobbied for stricter oversight of home discipline. He gave lectures, wrote articles, and became a voice for children who couldn't speak for themselves. Owen's story, anonymized but powerful, became a case study used in universities nationwide. This Shed case prompted legislative changes in Connecticut and 3 other states regarding child welfare checks and mandatory reporting. 1 year after the trial, William received a letter from an unexpected source, one of Sue's victims, a woman named Tabitha Gross, who testified at trial. She'd been in Sue's care as a child 30 years ago. Dr. Edwards, I wanted to thank you for what you did. When I testified, it was the first time I told anyone about what Sue Melton did to me. I'd carried that shame and trauma for 3 decades, thinking I deserved it, just like she'd taught me to think. Watching your son's courage, a 5-year-old who fought back when I couldn't, gave me permission to finally seek help. I'm in therapy now. I'm healing. And I wanted you to know that Owen didn't just save himself that night. He saved me too. Please tell him thank you when he's old enough to understand. With gratitude. Tabitha. William showed Owen the letter on his 8th birthday. The boy read it carefully, his brow furrowed. I helped someone, he asked. You helped a lot of people, buddy. By being brave, by telling the truth, you showed other people they could be brave too. Owen thought about this. Maybe when I grow up, I can help people like you do. William pulled him into a hug, his throat tight. You already are, Owen. You already are. That evening, William stood on his back porch, watching Owen play in the yard. Just playing, like a normal kid, no fear shadowing his movements. The journey from that terrible phone call to this moment had been brutal, but they'd survived. More than survived. They'd won. Marcia and Sue had tried to break Owen, to mold him through pain into something compliant and afraid. Instead, they'd forged something stronger, a child who knew his worth, who understood that love shouldn't hurt, who'd learned that protecting yourself wasn't wrong. And William had learned something too, that love sometimes meant burning down the world to keep your child safe. That justice wasn't just a legal concept, but a moral imperative. That the instincts he doubted, that screaming certainty that something was wrong, should never be ignored again. His phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Dickey. Owen's latest evaluation shows significant progress. His trauma responses are decreasing. You're doing great, William. William smiled, pocketed his phone, and called Owen inside for dinner. They had spaghetti and meatballs, Owen's favorite, and laughed over terrible jokes. Later, William read him stories until the boy fell asleep, finally at peace. In the darkness of Owen's room, William whispered a promise. I'll never let anyone hurt you again. And I'll make sure what happened to you helps protect other kids. That's my promise to you. Owen slept on, safe and loved, while his father kept watch. The monsters were in cages now, and William Edwards had made sure they'd stay there. 5 years later, Owen was 12, a bright kid who loved science and basketball. The scars remained. He still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at loud noises, but he was thriving. He'd even forgiven William for that drive to Sue's house, understanding now that his father had been manipulated too. Marcia sent letters from prison occasionally. William burned them without reading. Owen had the right to contact her someday if he chose, but William would never encourage it. Sue Melton died in prison of a stroke during her 3rd year of incarceration. William didn't attend the funeral. Neither did Marcia. William had published a book, When Discipline Becomes Abuse, a father's fight for his son. The proceeds went to a foundation he'd established to help children escaping abusive homes. Owen's story, told with his permission, had helped hundreds of families. On the 6th anniversary of that terrible night, William and Owen visited Genevieve Fuller, who'd become like a grandmother to Owen. They brought flowers and stayed for dinner. You know what I think about sometimes? Genevieve said as they ate. That moment when Owen came through my fence. I almost didn't answer the door. I almost called 911 and waited inside. But something told me to go to him. I'm glad you did, William said quietly. Me too, Owen added. You saved me. No, sweetheart, Genevieve said, her eyes kind. You saved yourself. I just gave you a safe place to land. That night, driving home under a clear sky, Owen turned to William. Dad, I want to tell you something. Shoot. I'm glad everything happened the way it did. William glanced at him, concerned. What do you mean? I mean, I wish Mommy and Grandma hadn't hurt me. But because they did, and because you fought for me, we helped other kids. Tabitha, the people at your lectures, everyone who read your book. So, maybe something good came from something bad. William had to pull over, his eyes blurring with tears. He turned to his son, this incredible, resilient, wise young man. You're right, he managed. And you should be proud of that. You turned your pain into purpose. Like you did, Owen said simply. They sat there for a moment, father and son, survivors and warriors, bound by love and trauma and triumph. Then William started the car, and they drove home together, to the life they'd built from the ashes of the worst night of their lives. Behind them, the past receded. Ahead, the future waited. And for the first time in years, William Edwards felt truly at peace. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see